Games Despair and Commentary here, and today I want to talk about a game that just recently turned 20, Morrowind. Morrowind is a game that I believe is nearly perfect. It hits great marks in a lot of areas that I care about. The setting, story, characters, exploration, and characterization of the factions are all magnificent. Little has matched the sense of wonder that I had the first time I created a character and started exploring outside Saint Anine, the starting village, when I was 12. Partially this was because of my age, but I feel that even were I to have had this first experience as an adult, it would have been something that most games just don't have to offer. The setting in Morrowind manages to hold a level of familiarity in that most of the topography and most of the things that we see are reminiscent of any generic fantasy at first glance, but then we quickly find wild creatures like netches and guars, and places with unique architecture like what we see in Balmora, and it brings us into a new land that we're eager to explore what else separates Morrowind from us. The story takes the concept of fulfilling a religious prophecy and being the destined hero, which is by no means new, but it does it well, unfolding over time and slowly revealing how it relates to the local religion and why the player is the destined hero. The story intertwines many interesting characters that are multifaceted and deep, like Vivek, one of only two characters in the Elder Scrolls lore to achieve Chime, a state in which a mortal overcomes all limits. Characters like Divya Fear, who only makes a brief appearance in the main questline, are etched in the memory of Morrowind players because they're so interesting. An extremely powerful wizard with a tower full of traps and treasure is not particularly special, but when his tower is also home to patients of a devastating plague he's working tirelessly to cure purely out of academic stimulation and goodwill, it spices it up a bit. His tower is also home to the last living dwarf in the Elder Scrolls and his three daughters, which are actually clones of himself and also his wives, making a memorable character. In much the same way as the characters, the locations are memorable. While the actual landmass of the map in Morrowind is much smaller than those found in Oblivion and Skyrim, it simultaneously feels larger and much less of a chore to explore. Very little of the map in Morrowind feels like pointless wilderness or the same copy-pasted cave over and over again that I inevitably come to feel when I play Oblivion or Skyrim. There's a distinctive flavor to the experience of exploring the old Dunmer strongholds and discovering the in-game fast travel pylons hidden within them, or crawling the Dwemer ruins that can be so vastly different from one another. On top of that is the subtle storytelling told in so many of these places, whether it be finding dead explorers or alive ones, or even artifacts. There are so many different things in Morrowind to explore and hidden secrets that even having played it well over a dozen times, it always feels like there is something new to be found each time. The different factions also have great characterization to them. Yes, the Fighters Guild is for fighters, the Mages Guild for mages, and the Thieves Guild for thieves, but the questlines within those make what would seem to be a generic faction questline interesting. All of the guilds start in typical ways, assuming you start them in Balmora, as the game would assume on a new player's first playthrough, with easy quests that would be rather generic for their guild's type, but then they quickly build into an intrigue. The Fighters Guild leader in Balmora quickly grows into conflict with the Thieves Guild, as it unravels in the greater storyline of the Fighters Guild that she's corrupt and serving the interests of the rival to the Thieves Guild, the Kamanatong. The Mages Guild leader quickly starts to use you for her own personal interests, stealing researchers' notes and attacking her rivals. The Thieves Guild is perhaps the least surprising in that it has you go around stealing, and the greater conflict is just that the Thieves Guild is a rival to the more ruthless guild and more established guild, the Kamanatong. The exception for the typical guilds is the Morag Tong. While they function as this game's version of the Dark Brotherhood, being the Assassin's Guild, they hold an entirely different flavor for them. Personally, I'm a big fan of the Morag Tong and the unique way in which it functions as the Assassin's Guild for this game. The Morag Tong are sanctioned assassins that partake in legal executions handed through writs from the great houses of Morrowind. Which leads us to the political factions, of which the player can only join one: House Halalu, House Redoran, and House Telvanni. Each faction represents a character class archetype, as well as a political ideology. Halalu being representative of rogues and republicanism or mercantilism. House Redoran represents the warrior class and feudalism or an honor culture. And House Telvanni are representative of the mage class and libertarianism or personal freedom. You know Telvanni are libertarians because they love shrooms, also drugs. Halalu quests have you dealing with their internal strife with the Kamanatong, which is largely funded and operated by Halalu, but also fighting against slavery. House Redoran quests largely deal with fighting bandits and smugglers, but they also have to deal with the internal political strife caused by corrupt nobility in House Redoran abusing their power. House Telvanni, much like libertarianism and anarchy, is all over the place, with a wide array of quests that aren't regulated to a single ideology in the same way as the other houses. Another thing that is interesting is how the guilds and political factions interact. There's an intentional conflict with the archetypical guilds and political factions. If you're playing a rogue, you're likely to be involved with the Thieves Guild, which can create a conflict with House Halalu, as the Halalu are greatly connected with the Kamanatong. Members of House Redoran that are in the Fighters Guild would have to conflict their honor with that of the corrupt Fighters Guild leaders that are effectively functioning as bandits and smugglers that are abusing their power in the guild. Similarly for mages, the Mages Guild and House Telvanni consider each other to be rivals. It can even go so far as for the head of the Mages Guild to ask a member to kill every leader of House Telvanni. When you add all of this together, the unique setting, the fantastic exploration, great characters, and the deep characterization to the factions, it really encourages you to create new characters to explore the world with. There's a different experience to be had as a noble Redoran knight, or a greedy Halalu rogue, or a self-interested Telvanni mage. Or one could play those factions outside of the most obvious way, or avoid them altogether. Even playing as a vampire opens up specific clans and quests with them. There's a real depth to the replayability in Morrowind. Personally, I think that the original graphics hold up fairly well given their age, but with mods to improve graphical fidelity, much of the game continues to look better than what you can find in the newest super special extra amazing quadratic Skyrim edition for the Xbox 720, and the soundtrack was so amazing that they basically never stopped using it, though I still feel that the original is unbeaten in this field. Morrowind, however, is not a perfect game. Anyone who is going to play Morrowind for the first time today would be quick to feel that it's very slow, which is true. The base movement speed of the game is excruciatingly slow, and now most players use mods to just globally enhance the speed of everything, so this is not as much of an issue anymore. A more gray area is what I feel is a missed opportunity of being able to side with the bad guy. This is never an option in modern Elder Scrolls games, but if it were going to be, this is the one to do it. Dagoth's plan is not entirely evil, nor entirely different from what Tiber Septim did, using Numidium, an ancient construct, to conquer Tamriel and get rid of all you filthy Inwa. But this is one of the few instances where the player character could have reason to join Dagoth. He's charismatic, he makes good points to the player, and they have a connection that I won't spoil here for those that still have yet to play the game. Dagoth did nothing wrong. Then comes the more controversial parts of the mechanics in Morrowind. The character stats are largely similar to a tabletop RPG in how numeric values add up and create a percentage-based chance for success to do a particular thing. At the start of the game, for most types of characters that aren't optimized, the base success chance to do most things will be quite low, and can be quite frustrating to new players to find themselves constantly missing attacks, constantly failing to pick locks, or constantly failing to cast spells. There are mods that do things like add 100% success rate to attacking, or other mods that just tweak the formulas globally. More recently, there's been overhauls that try to change the system entirely and bring it closer to modern RPGs. I don't have much experience with the newer overhauls to comment on them, though they look promising and I might want to try a game with one in the near future. I wouldn't recommend using 100% success rate mod by itself, as the game just isn't balanced around that, and it starts to feel cheesy pretty fast. I have played with several of the global formula tweaks such as class, conscious, character progression, or MCC, which I feel improve the game a good bit. The truth is that the mechanics behind the game just aren't ideal for the particular type of real-time RPG that Morrowind is, and this is the one thing that holds it back from being one of the few perfect games of an age. This has been Games, Despair, and Commentary. Thanks for watching. If you like the content, please like, comment, and subscribe for more videos in the future.